I want to talk about a subject that's very much in the atmosphere. I don't mean to be a current events commentator, but I want to just talk about appropriate touching. With the key word being touching, because at some very core aspect, we are born to touch. We are manifested, we are brought into the world to touch it, physically, emotionally, psychically. It is a profoundly delicate operation. We hunger for touch as a way of knowing ourselves and others. It has gross aspect and it has exceedingly profoundly subtle aspect. Many people never graduate to subtle. They stay in the realm of the gross. But even that is vibrantly essential. It starts with birth and watching babies experience themselves. It's not yet touch. It's experiential. It's filling with mother's milk, feeling the universe, feeling their hands moving in space. It's about feeling in a manifested way to touch life. I made a movie once about, or wrote a movie about autistic children and talked about this extraordinary movement that they tend to make. And I asked one child why he does it, and he said to feel his fingers, to feel his hands, to feel himself in space. Stillness didn't do it. When you reach out for a child's hand when they are an infant, their first instinct is to grasp, to grab, hold on. And it's real. They grab your thumb, they grab your finger, they grab your face. They want to touch you. They want to be part of your physicality. Your physicality is so important because they made a big journey to get born. They made a big journey to come into this state of being. And now they're here. They're here for a reason, which is to witness life, not just visually, not just orally, not just through a kind of sensory perception. They want to grab onto it, have it. I remember as a child, I became very aware of a sensation that made no sense. But it was when I went like this, when I touched my thumb to my forefinger really lightly, I felt a kind of explosion in my chest. It would take me almost 70 years to figure out how important this is. It's called touching yourself, touching you. Touching yourself is one of the great experiences in the universe. You have a body. This is proof of it. Yes, you can do this, all of these feelings, but this is an exquisite awareness of presence. It's interesting that those who sit in meditation are told to sit with their back straight, their palms up, which is a very vulnerable position for your hands to be, and then to close your fingers and your thumbs together, and you touch you. You touch your own being. That is the connection that we start with. Touching ourselves. We start to explore the intimacy of that as little babies. We start to go, and it's an amazing sensation. I recommend it. You are touching yourself internally. You are exploring your inner being, your mouth. And of course, as all of us grow, we understand there is an enormous drive to touch our genitals. That becomes almost a true obsession. For many people, it is the obsession, to touch one's genitals and to feel the enormity of that pleasure, the movement toward orgasmic pleasure, because the learning to do that is essential to recreating more life. Learning how important that is, how vibrant it is in the world, is everything. And so we get drawn to that space and obsessed by it in some ways, and sometimes never move beyond it. But it is a feeling of touch that we just hunger for and feel driven to. And then something starts to happen early on, so it's not like you evolve into it so much, but it's the desire to touch other, the other. To touch your mother's face. Again, to grab onto their finger or thumb or hand. To see the power of touch. It feels wonderful. There are all kinds of touches, and some of them are gentle and soft, some are erotic, some are like pounding, hitting, punching, kicking, touching the other in a violent way. But it brings you into a place of profound life. Why? Why does hitting feel good? It doesn't feel good to you when you're hit, but it feels good to hit, to make that gesture, to connect with another person and see that big a stimulus, that big an arousal of reaction, to dialogue with the world in a violent way. And then you can contrast that with dialoguing with the world in a very gentle way. They have a complete range, a spectrum of emotional reaction, all of which feels deeply alive and human. And we like to explore the wholeness of that. We're here to explore the wholeness of that. And then we start to feel drawn to more intimate expression of that touch. This becomes a kiss. Kissing is one of the most extraordinarily opening, enlivening, gentling, satisfying expressions of touch. We're not using our hands, we're using lips. And we kiss somebody, and we feel this thing inside us go. You watch it in any movie, you know it yourself. When you first kiss somebody who you care about, other than your parents and your siblings and your aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas, which gets kind of less than satisfying. Kissing the other that you are enamored of, kissing is so potent. So potent. And then sticking your tongue into another person's tongue is like, oh, I have been invited into a level of connectivity with another being that is special beyond almost anything in the world. The only thing that beats it, and we all know what it is genitally connecting with another human being. It does something to all the chakras, all the centers in our body. They begin to explode with a kind of pleasure that wants to build into something cathartic, something that carries you out of body, mind, self, that carries you into a kind of universal unity for one brief moment, but it is worth everything to get there. And after a while, once we've tasted that, we begin to want to engineer our life to get more of it, as much as we can get. The problem with getting it is it involves somebody else. You can't just go, hey, excuse me, I need to take care of this. People don't tend to respond to that. There is a kind of invitation that's required for intimacy on that level to happen. There are signals for that, because the truth is, once you start to bring it into your mental state, into your mind, once you have to actually say yes verbally, it's become something other than this heart-driven, gut-level experience of attachment to somebody else, of invitation to somebody else. And yet, ideally, the totality of us invites somebody in, and the vitality and the internal being makes it clear from one person to another that that invitation is in play. That touching makes the world go round. It allows us to feel something we call love. We have many, many variabilities of love. We have many expressions of love, from paternal love to sexual love. There's so many forms of expression of this incredible kind of grasping of, touching of, invitation to being that love represents. It's so beautiful. It's so at the pinnacle of most people's experience. And it's completely about touching other and being touched at the same time as you touch, and creating a kind of absence of two. When two people come together in enormous touching, love, connectivity, for a brief moment, there is no other at all. You become one thing. And that is a taste, a true taste of spiritual transcendence. It's a true taste of the reality of being, that the two idea of two, the very existence of two, is a kind of illusion that finally resolves itself in sexual union. And then, of course, there's another version of that. And that other version is a spiritual version where connecting to God, to being, to the cosmic truth, to reality, is a drive that transcends even the human connectivity. It is something so beyond, so vast, so powerful, and we only get an intimation of it in sexuality. The true urge in life is to touch not through the outer, but through the inner. To go inside into this space that touches the infinite. The outer universe that we all embrace and love beyond belief is temporary. We talk about this every week, the Buddhist idea of impermanence. We come in here to taste, touch, feel, embrace reality, and then we have to let it go. The inward journey takes you into a taste of something that does not end. You have to take that on trust, because many people don't know this. They don't know the inner journey because our lives are geared for the outer. And of course, because they're geared to the outer and reinforced endlessly by everything around you, you do not know there's this inner space, except for the fact that you're feeling it all the time, but you don't know it really. So you live in the outer, and you will be betrayed by the outer, because it will all be taken away. Everything you love, everything you've touched, everything you've devoted yourself to will all go, whoop, gone. That's a very bad time when it goes poof, to suddenly discover that there was another universe inside that you never looked at, that you never paid attention to. But the people who are driven to or drawn to an inner journey begin to sense that the thing that they have been looking for in the outer has also been and is always present in the inner. As you draw into yourself, as you let your heart take you into the openness of its own being, you start to feel something that is also akin to touch. And you realize that when you touch somebody outside, your heart is going, ah, ah. When you go onto the inner journey without the external touch, you're also getting, ah, ah. It's the same thing. And then, the deeper you go, the more powerful it becomes. It is a touch that is based on sensory experience, viscera. It's a known reality, not intellectually, but it's a whole body awareness, and it draws you in, and there's something inside you that becomes very familiar with it if you practice this, and you go in deeper and deeper, and it has a depth that is beyond understanding. And the deeper you go, the richer, the more amazing, the more remarkable this inner touch represents. It is so much the ultimate hunger that you have, the desire that you have, that anything external is only a tiny mirror of the inner. And yet trying to persuade people to begin this interior journey is very hard, because the obsession with the addiction to the outer is so unendingly powerful. But if something connects in you and begins this inner journey, what happens is you start to feel why you are here. You are here to touch God internally and externally. That this inner expression manifests outwardly, and when you touch another person, when you touch yourself, you are touching God. Nothing but God. And when you go deep enough inside to start to feel that, when you touch yourself and you know you're touching God, the revelation is altering on every level. Once you realize you are touching God just by bringing your finger and thumb together, then you start to realize when you touch another person, that is also happening. Then you realize that what you are looking at in life is not highways and trees and sky and stuff. You're looking at God itself. You are seeing it and touching it with your vision. You are hearing it through your ears, the birds chirping, the train going by, people talking. It is God speaking and coming in, and it's all starting to come together as a singular expression that is energetically vibrant and beyond understanding, beyond rationale, beyond anything you have ever been able to learn in school or learn elsewhere. It is just what is. And you start to become one with that, or to recognize that you have always been one with that. And this exquisite experience of being born, of coming into the world, is to know that you are one with, a witness of, a expression of God itself. When you practice this long enough, and there is practice involved, and you start to dive deep in yourself and get past your obstructions and your distractions and your disturbances and your emotional dramas, when you just say, no matter what, I'm going in, I'm going on this journey. When you go deeply into this journey, you come back with an exquisite sense of touch. And one of the things that I have learned over 50 years of sitting and meditating is how to touch without touching. How to touch you without actually laying my hands on you. How to touch you with such potentially life-altering connectivity is a gift of subtlety. It's a realization that touch is not necessarily manifested and physical, it is energetic. And if you start to become very, very conscious of people around you, you start to feel where their fear of being touched is, where they're afraid of being inappropriately touched, where their fear of being raped is. You start to feel how guarded everybody is in the realm of touch. They don't want you in unless they give you absolute permission. Well, spiritual touch has an endless invitation. Physical touch does not. Spiritual touch, if you put yourself in the realm of that possibility, will reach deeply inside of you with such gentility, with such affirmation, with such care, that it will find its way to the part of you that is most afraid, and it will go, it's okay, it's okay. And something in you will feel that, and it will go, and you will become more open and more available and more open to the outer as well as the inner. People who come at you inappropriately, which can also happen energetically, by the way. If people come at you inappropriately with agenda, with power, with I above you, with I have the right to control you because I am whatever you are, full of power, full of control, then you can feel invaded by that. It's inappropriate. It's truly inappropriate, and you have every reason to defend against it, and should. And what's happening in our culture, of course, right now is that people are speaking out about inappropriate touching and beyond. Very important. But what's wanted here is to begin to understand what is appropriate touching. How do we open to it? How do we allow it to happen in our lives because we are born to have it? What do we have to do to allow people to know what's appropriate and what is not? And I will tell you, the biggest thing is honesty. It comes with the word yes. Yes. There's another word, no. And even when I sit here and teach, I can tell when somebody is saying yes and somebody is saying no. And trust me, all of you have your no spots. Don't go there. You can go here, but don't go there. And I do not go there. I may circle, I may go to see if I can soften the resistance, if you will. But if it's a no, it's a no. And you have power in your no. You have that power in your inner life and in your external life. But what you really want in the end, is to find your way into saying yes to the universe. The universe, God as its creator, if you will, is never inappropriate. Ever. I will put that in a little bit of a perspective, however. God is stern. God has one request of you, and that is to find him, her, it. To return to source, to return to your true nature. To know that this expression in life of physicality is a gift and it's temporary. Do not get lost in this gift. Be aware in it. Be conscious in it. And if you start to get lost in it, you will be shaken to the core by anything that life can use to shake you to the core. It will do that out of love, because if you get lost in this, that kind of lost is unbearable. And to get found, to go back into yourself, to find and remember who you are and what you are and why you are is essential. And the universe will do everything to make sure you do that. In a way, there's another kind of touch. The car crash touch, the loss of someone you love touch. There are ways that the universe has to break you apart. And it will do that in service of what it knows to be the only way to get your attention and bring you back. But I will tell you, you don't have to go that route. The best and most simple route is sit still, enter your heart, open your being to who you are, and let yourself be touched by and let yourself touch what is. It is exquisite beyond belief, and the levels of subtlety are beyond anything you can comprehend. It only gets subtler and more beautiful and more extraordinary every single time you go there. It is everything you came here for. It's everything you dreamt of. It's everything you could possibly wish could be available to you in this moment. It is so real, it is so vibrant, it is so essential that not to do it is to waste this exquisite manifested state that you have been born into. So take this seriously. Don't just take it for granted. Don't walk around in your drama, in your sadness, in your emotions, in your why me, God, all of that stuff. I mean, you can do it, but you are wasting your time. You are wasting something so precious that has to do with simply touching and being touched by the truth of existence. It's touching you every second. Believe me, every single second it is reaching out and touching you. And I cannot tell you how deeply, lovingly, immersively, descriptively, beautifully involved in you this energy is. You are so important to it. I cannot emphasize that enough. You are so important. You are not a passive thing to be thrown by the roadside. You are an essential ingredient in the manifested universe. Recognize that. Wake up to yourself. Wake up to who you are and find that you can touch yourself. That's everything. That's the journey. It's why we're here. And God bless you on your journey, because it's worth every instance of effort and every instance of becoming present. The end. Actually, I want to say one more thing. Sorry, you can lie down if you want. I went to a play last night. A friend's one-man show. There were 5 people in the audience, one of whom was the producer who brought a friend. Blanche and I, and one other person, I don't know who it is. I have a terrible reaction to no audiences showing up. I've had that experience. When my film My Life opened, we went to the theater, and I said, I must be in the wrong theater. There's nobody here. It was the right theater. There was nobody there. Luckily, somehow we thought to run down to Santa Monica, where in that theater it had people. But I knew what it was not to be honored, recognized, not to be embraced by everybody for whom you've made this huge effort. And here we are sitting in this theater, and this friend comes out to do this show, and it was full bore, complete performance. It was so beautiful. It was so unbridled. It was so invested. It was. There might have been 1 billion people there for this production. It was so exquisitely rendered. The performance of the acting, the script, which he had also written, was so moving to me. And I sat and watched it, and I just kept getting out of the way. I just kept going, this is so beautiful. And I just kept expanding and expanding. And I felt as I watched it that the universe was watching through my eyes. That this man was performing for all there is and all there was and all there could be. It had nothing to do with the physicality of who was sitting in the audience. He was giving himself over completely to the what is. It was an amazing show, for whatever that's worth, with unbelievably great acting. And when it was all over, there was a part of me that felt so bad, and I felt he could feel somewhat bad that nobody was there for it. And then, of course, on the way home, on the ride home, I kept feeling everything was there for it. Everyone, the universe was there for it. That we're not performing for each other, we are delivering for ourselves. We are giving it to God. We are performing for the what is that pays absolute attention, even if nobody's there. And I just want you to know that you all think it's necessary to have the universe acknowledge you. and tell you how great you are and how wonderful you are and show up. But it never fails to show up. It never fails not to be there. There is never a moment where you are not witnessed and loved, ever. But what was really important was that he did the work. He did not say, oh, well, there's no one here, I will pull back. He gave it everything. And that's what the universe loved, that this person gave it everything because that's what's wanted. And we need to do the same thing. We need to perform, if you will, or be in the world and be appropriate to the world and act with a certain kind of eloquence and a kind of goodness and kindness and all those things we hear about in life, not because anybody acknowledges it, because most people will not, but because it is seen, it is known, it is witnessed by the very source of being itself. So I was going to talk about that today, and then this thing about touch came up, and I went, oh, well, move into the touch realm. But I wanted to say this because I think it's important. You are not performing for anyone, you're performing for yourself. Bring your best effort. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.